Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam. Translated with commentaries by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is Canto 5, Chapter 17, Text 12. And Chapter 17 is a description of the descent of the Ganges, where the Ganges River comes from, and how it's here on this planet, and how special it is. So we're also getting a bit of a description of the lay of the land, so to speak, as the Ganges descends. And we were reading in the previous chapters that Lord Vamanadeva, for his third step of land, his reach of his foot and leg was so extensive that his toenail poked a hole in the covering of the universe. The universe is afloat in the causal ocean, and some of that water is coming through because his foot and his toenail made a hole in the covering. And so first the Ganges washes his lotus feet as the causal ocean comes into the universe. It washes his lotus feet. And then from there, oh boy, Kali Yuga memory. From there, it's embarrassing, Kali Yuga memory. Let's look at the summary. Okay. Okay. First, and then it falls. A few drops of that water fall on the head of Lord Shiva. Washes the lotus feet of the Lord. Then some of that water drops onto the head of Lord Shiva and remains there for thousands of millenniums. Then it flows into the heavenly planets, which are on the soles of Lord Vishnu's feet. And then from there, the first planets are Dhruvaloka, and the seven sages have planets just below Dhruvaloka. And from there, it goes to Lord Brahma's planet. So Dhruvaloka is a very high planet. It's above Lord Brahma's planet. The Ganges first goes to, right from Lord Shiva, goes directly to Dhruvaloka, and then the seven sages, and from there to Brahmapuri, top of Mount Meru, and then branches out in different ways, which we've been reading about in the last few chapters, until it flows through Bharatavarsa, one of the 9 Varsas. The other 8 Varsas are heavenly conditions, but on this Varsa, Bharatavarsa, is dedicated to fruitive activity. So it's a little different than the other Varsas. Okay, so this is chapter 12, and this is an ongoing description of the Ganges as the Ganges flows through the universe. Okay, in these 8 Varsas, or tracts of land, human beings live 10,000 years according to earthly calculations. So that's the other 8 Varsas, not this Varsa. This Varsa is different. It's the other 8. All the inhabitants are almost like demigods. They have the bodily strength of 10,000 elephants Indeed, their bodies are as sturdy as thunderbolts. The youthful duration of their lives is very pleasing, and both men and women enjoy sexual union with great pleasure for a long time. After years of sensual pleasure, when a balance of 1 year of life remains, the wife conceives a child. Thus, the standard of pleasure for the residents of these heavenly regions is exactly like human beings who lived during Treta Yuga. Why? You hear the standard of the material sense gratification. Staggering. Just staggering from our position here in the Kali Yuga. Prabhupada's commentary. There are 4 yugas: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. During the first yuga, Satya Yuga, people were very pious. Everyone practiced mystic yoga system for spiritual understanding and realization of God. Because everyone was absorbed in samadhi, no one was interested in material sense enjoyment. During Treta Yuga, that's the next yuga, people enjoyed sense pleasure with tribulations. Material miseries began in Dwapara Yuga, but they were not very stringent. Stringent material miseries really began from the advent of Kali Yuga. Another point in this verse is that all 8 varshas of these heavenly varshas, although men and women enjoy sex pleasure, there's no pregnancy. Pregnancy takes place only in lower grade life. For example, animals like dogs and hogs become pregnant twice a year, and each time they beget at least a half dozen offspring. Even lower species of life, such as snakes, give birth to hundreds of young at one time. This informs us that in grades of life higher than ours, pregnancy occurs once in a lifetime. People still have sex life, but there's no pregnancy. In the spiritual world, people are not very attracted to sex life due to their exalted devotional attitude. Practically speaking, there's no sex life in the spiritual world, but even if it sometimes does occur, there's no pregnancy at all. On the planet Earth, however, human beings do become pregnant, although the tendency is to avoid having children. In the sinful age of Kali, people have even taken to the process of killing the child in the womb. This is the most degraded practice. It can only perpetuate the miserable material conditions of those who perform it. Wow, so it's just like everything else that in the Kali Yuga here on this earth planet try to make it into one of the heavenly planets by mechanical means. Why do they do that? Because there are conditions of life. There are planets where the standards are such that people have sex as much as they want without pregnancy until they conceive one child, and that's it, toward the end of their life. So here, in the Kali Yuga, in this situation, they want to imitate that, so they do it by mechanical means. They don't have the pious credits to go to such a place where that's the standard, that's the norm. So they try to make it like that here. And it doesn't work like that. If you want that, then prepare yourself to go there. Of course, devotees, they don't want that. So, but that's how it's done. If those desires are there, then you have to acquire a certain amount of pious credits to go there. It's like if you want to go on a vacation, then you have to earn the money and then buy the ticket and go. But no, they want to artificially have all kinds of preventing pregnancy programs different, we all know the different things, pills and mechanical devices, and then even to the point of, if there is pregnancy, to kill the infant, kill the child before it's born. It's all very sinful. The kind of life that they're envisioning and desiring is available, but you have to go to the place where that's the norm, where that's the way people live. And they do that with all kinds of things. They want mystic powers. They want to be able to fly in the air, which yogis can do. They want to be able to go through rock and stone, which yogis can do. These are yogic, mystic powers. And by practicing in a certain way, one gets those powers. But they do it with mechanical means. Make some mechanical bird. And by mechanical means, fly in the air. Or get some heavy-duty machinery and just bore holes through mountains. So, but there are ways to achieve these things. Just, if you know this, a person knows the science of it, the actual science of it, then there's, they can go there. So, it's interesting that lower species have lots and lots of offspring. And when you get down into the insects, oh my goodness, like a spider, there'll be so many baby spiders, or, as many people are familiar with, cockroaches. I mean, they have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds hatch at once. So this is a lower grade of life. And this is karma for the living entity. And to try to artificially change that karma is not helpful in the progression of the consciousness of the living being from attachment to, identifying an attachment to material energy, identifying with material sense gratification. It's not helpful. What's helpful is to go through the karma, like Jad Bharat. He got a bit of a karmic reaction. He slipped in his devotional path, had to take birth as a deer. So he just tolerated it and kept on the goal. The goal is Krishna, service to the Lord, devotional service. He kept on that goal and just tolerated the situation. So, but people don't have that in general in Kali Yuga. People don't have any idea that there is a purpose for birth as a human being. There is a purpose. They have no idea at all. And so artificially they try to make things enjoyable and nice and heavenly. But it has terrible reactions because it goes against the the Lord's arrangement through the material nature to elevate the soul. Actually going down by doing these things. You think they're going up, making life more tolerable, but the reactions that come from these things force one down into lower births. It actually has the completely opposite effect. So it's very unfortunate. So the Krishna consciousness movement is special mercy of the Lord to try to elevate the living entities, try to reawaken their consciousness of spirit, be able to distinguish what is actually spiritual and what is material, and to start making the right decisions in life for actual elevation and actual happiness. But even though these varsas are available, the devotees of the Lord aren't interested in going there. There's no attraction for all kinds of sex. There's no attraction for that, because it's binding to the material conception of life. So devotees, they're experiencing a higher taste in service to Krishna. You have no taste for these things. That's how powerful bhakti yoga is. Of course, a materialist says, oh, you're missing it. Oh, goodness, how can you? Yeah, right. I don't think so. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Text 13. In each of those tracts of land, there are many gardens filled with flowers and fruits, according to the season, and there are beautifully decorated hermitage as well. These places are beautiful. I mean, they're just gorgeous, lovely. Between the great mountains demarcating the borders of those lands lie enormous lakes of clear water, filled with newly grown lotus flowers. Aquatic birds such as swans, ducks, water chickens, cranes become greatly excited by the fragrance of lotus flowers, and the charming sound of bumblebees fills the air. The inhabitants of those lands are important leaders among the demigods. Always attended by their respective servants, they enjoy life in gardens along the lakes. In this pleasing situation, the wives of the demigods smile playfully at their husbands and look upon them with lusty desires. All the demigods and their wives are constantly supplied with sandalwood pulp, flower garlands by the servants. In this way, all the residents of the 8 heavenly varsas enjoy, attracted by the activities of the opposite sex. So, sounds like heaven. And it says that the residents there, they are important, what is it? They're important leaders among the demigods. So the demigods they have a responsible post of service within the material situation. They manage the affairs of the universe. Indra, he's in charge of rain, and Varuna manages the oceans. Vayu manages the wind. Chandra is a demigod on the moon planet, and there are thousands and thousands and millions of these demigods who are responsible for the functioning of the universe. They're administrators. So to look at just a teeny tiny, not even very good reflection of how it works, we see within government, the government officials, they have a lot of facility for enjoying, even on this planet, although the standard isn't anywhere near this, private jets, and they can throw these different parties, and their salaries, they're paid very well, they live in very nice homes. And this is what happens with administrators, royalty, kings, managers, leaders, CEOs of these big international companies, the owners of these banks. They have a lot of material facility for sense gratification. So again, devotees aren't interested in these things, but some living entities are. A lot of living entities, it's material, it's attraction of the material world, is to be able to try to enjoy like that. Just like Krishna. Except for a couple little problems, like birth and death, modes of material nature. And they can't stay there. The idea is it may be possible to achieve this position for a very long time. It says here they live for 10,000 years. That's a long time by our calculation. But then what? At some point, it's over. And then what? So, enjoying like this could be very, very difficult to turn one's attention to Krishna, because it's pretty distracting. Totally absorbed in all kinds of the environment. Where's the impetus to go to Krishna? It's like totally absorbed in this. So it's said that the demigods are actually eager to appear here on this earthly planet in the middle of Kali Yuga, just so they can take advantage of the Sankirtan movement, because it is the express route back home, back to Godhead. Whereas somebody could just meander around for 10,000 years on the heavenly planet in a stupor of sense enjoyment, not make any spiritual advancement. And then when it's over, then what? So, it's kind of interesting, I was thinking about the pastime with Jai and Vijay, in how, because they offended the Kumaras, saintly sons of Lord Brahma, and didn't allow them to enter, they offended them, talking abusively and making fun of them, and sending them away, not allowing them to enter Vaikuntha, although they were qualified. And for that, they were cursed to take birth in the material world for a certain number of lifetimes. And Lord Vishnu gave him a choice. Okay, how do you want to go? We can't mitigate this curse. You're going to have to go through it. And how do you want to do this? Tell you what, I'll make a deal. Let's make a deal. You can take birth 7 times in the material world as my devotee, as my devotees, and then after your 7th birth, you can come back. Or you can make it shorter. Take birth 3 times as an enemy and let me fight with you, and then you can come back. So they chose the express route. Okay, we'll take 3 births as your enemy and give you pleasure by fighting with you and being killed by, and you will kill us 3 times, and then we come back. So they have a choice. You can sort of flounder around and go to the heavenly planets, flounder around there for 10,000 years. And then it's not even certain that you're going back home, back to Godhead. Where you go after that, who knows? Or take birth in Kali Yuga, take advantage of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan, chant Hare Krishna, do as much service as you can, in whatever way you can, associate with the devotees, hear from the realized souls, and back home. Sounds like a good deal to me. Prabhupada's commentary. Here's a description of the lower heavenly planets. Wow, that's the lower the lower heavenly planets, the 8 Varshas. The inhabitants of those planets enjoy life in a pleasing atmosphere of clear lakes, filled with newly grown lotus flowers, and gardens filled with fruits, flowers, various kinds of birds, humming bees. In that atmosphere, they enjoy life with their very beautiful wives, who are always sexually stimulated. Nonetheless, they're all devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as will be explained in subsequent verses. Wow. So they're devotees. Wow. The inhabitants of this earth also desire such heavenly enjoyment, but when they somehow or other achieve imitation pleasures, like sex and intoxication, they completely forget the service of the Supreme Lord. In the heavenly planets, however, although the residents enjoy superior sense gratification, They never forget their positions as eternal servants of the Supreme Being. Okay. Wow. Yeah, they're not degraded. Huh. Wow. But still a devotee's not interested in going to the heavenly planets. But if Krishna has some service for the devotee to do there, then they might have to go. But they're not aspiring for that, because they want heavenly sense pleasure. But somebody has to do that service within the material world. Like Dhruva Maharaj, after he had his darshan with the Lord, he didn't even want his own planet. He didn't even want his own kingdom anymore. He just wanted to serve Krishna. Krishna said, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take charge of Dhruva Loka. I'm going to give you your whole planet, all just for you to be in charge of. So those kinds of things go on too. All right, text 14. To show mercy to his devotees in each of these 9 tracts of land, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Narayan, expands himself in his quadruple principles of Vasudeva, Shankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. In this way, he remains near his devotees to accept their service. Okay. Let's, so that also includes Bhartavarsa, the 8 heavenly planets, and then Bhartavarsa, which is a fruitive planet. In Prabhupada's commentary. In this connection, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur informs us that the demigods worship the Supreme Lord in his various deity forms, Archavigraha, because, except in the spiritual world, the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be directly worshipped in person. Wow. Okay. So to worship the Lord, even the demigods, they worship the deity form of the Lord, because only in the spiritual world can the Lord be worshipped directly in person. Yeah. In the material world, the Lord is always worshipped as Archavigraha, or deity in the temple. This is not when he's personally present as an incarnation. Then he's there personally as his incarnation, just like Lord Chaitanya. The deity of Lord Jagannath is there. Jagannath is worshipped in his deity form. But also the Lord was present in his form as Lord Chaitanya, Nityananda, Advaita Srivas. So he can do that. He can appear personally and accept service. But we're seeing that it isn't actually worship, although in some of the pastimes there is some worship that takes place. But it's more interactive, where he's engaged in pastimes and loving exchanges with his devotees, just like in the spiritual world. But when he's not personally manifest like that, when his incarnation isn't actually manifest, then he's worshipped in the deity form, the Archavigraha. There's no difference between Archavigraha and the original person. Therefore, those who are engaged in worshipping the deity in the temple in full opulence, even on this planet, should be understood to be directly in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead without a doubt. Jai! As enjoined in the Shastras, Arche Vishno Siladira Guru Shanaramati. No one should treat the deity in the temple as stone or metal, nor should one think that the spiritual master is an ordinary human being. One should strictly follow the Shastra conjunction and worship the deity, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without offenses. The spiritual master is the direct representative of the Lord, and no one should consider him an ordinary human being. By avoiding offenses against the deity and the spiritual master, one can advance in spiritual life or Krishna consciousness. Yeah. It's wonderful. Krishna's representative, Srila Prabhupada, has opened and installed so many temples, installed deities in so many temples all around the world in just a very short period of time, because he's the representative of Krishna, and Krishna's appearing there in the deity, just to give the devotees the opportunity to render service, make advancement in spiritual life. It's a great science. Devotional service. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. In this regard, the following quotation appears in Lagu Bhagavatamrita, and there are several Sanskrit verses here which I'm not going to try to stumble through. Here's the translation. In the Padma Purāṇa it is said that in the spiritual world the Lord personally expands in all directions and is worshipped as Vāsadeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. The same God is represented by the deity in this material world, which is only 1/4 of his creation. Vāsadeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are also present in the 4 directions of this material world. There's a Vaikuntha Loka covered with water in this material world. And on that planet is a place called Vedavati, where Vāsadeva is located. Another planet known as Vishnu Loka is situated above Satyaloka, and there Sankarshan is present. Similarly, in Dwarkapuri, Pradyumna is the predominator. On the island known as Svetadweep, there is an ocean of milk, and in the midst of that ocean is a place called Airavati Pura, where Aniruddha lies on Ananta. In some of the Sattvata Tantras, there's a description of the 9 Varsas and the predominating deity worshipped in each. Vāsadeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, Narayan, Nishinga, Hayagriva, Mahavaraha, and Brahma. The Lord Brahma mentioned in this connection is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When there's no fit human being to empower as Lord Brahma, the Lord himself takes the position as Lord Brahma. That Brahma mentioned here is Hari himself. So that's a pretty detailed description of the expansions. Text 15. Sukadeva Goswami said, in the tract of land known as Ilavrita Varsha, the only male person is Lord Shiva, the most powerful demigod. Goddess Durga, the wife of Lord Shiva, does not like any man to enter that land. If any foolish man dares to do so, she immediately turns him into a woman. I shall explain this later in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's what goes on Ilavrita Varsha. Everyone is submissive to Lord Shiva, and Goddess Durga makes sure there's no competition for Lord Shiva. Text 16. In Ilavrita Varsha, Lord Shiva is always encircled by 10 billion maidservants of Goddess Durga who minister to him. The quadruple expansion of the Supreme Lord is composed of Vāsadeva, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Sankarshan. Sankarshan is the 4th expansion. is certainly transcendental, but because his activities of destruction in the material world are in the mode of ignorance, he is known as tamasi, the Lord's form in the mode of ignorance. Lord Shiva knows that Sankarshan is the original cause of his own existence, and thus he always meditates upon him in trance by chanting the following mantra.